Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to tell something fascinating that I've been working on quite like 1 or 2 week. So I recently came up I was researching about the project called Sentient, and I was digging more, and some interesting facts came into me. So then I started to work on the report paper called OML paradigm, like which stands for Open, Monetizable, and Loyal AI. So now, like you may be thinking that this is like another project AI. So even I was thinking like that, and I wanted to dig it out, like where it's addressing a real problem that we are facing in the AI world today. So let me put a quick disclaimer here. So I am not affiliated with any Sentient Foundation in any way, and I haven't received any compensation for this analysis. I am doing this purely from my own research perspective because I found their approach genuinely innovative and worth discussing. Okay. So what I've been doing was like I was spent some time analyzing their papers, their GitHub repos, and even their cryptography frameworks, approaches, and all to see how all this works together. And when I saw the result, I wanted to write a report paper or a technical report paper which breaks down the OML paradigm from multiple angles, like the cryptography, the blockchain integration, and even the economics, like everything. Okay. So now, the technical paper is done, and it is filled with mathematical formulas, diagrams, tables, full of data. Like not everyone has the time to go through this almost 140 pages of technical documentation. So that's exactly why I'm making this video. I want to explain the core concepts, especially the parts that usually hard to grasp, like mathematical foundations, the data analysis, and there are some complex diagrams and all. Suppose if you're a technical guy and if you're a dev, then you can read my complete paper with references and detailed analysis. I uploaded it on Zenado. You'll find the link in the description below. Okay, and I'm also contributing to the sentient ecosystem through these educational videos and technical writings. So later on, I'll be also hosting some podcast with one of my friends who are in AI but in Web 2 space. So they haven't heard about Web 3. So I'll be discussing some more like conversational talks with one of those friends, and I'll be posting it on Spotify podcast also too. Okay, so I'll make it announcement on my Twitter also. So make sure to follow my Twitter handle as well. So now in this video, I'll be focusing specifically on the mathematical foundations and also some figures and data tables, which are the backbone of this research, right? So like why is this mathematical formulas were chosen, like data and the system architecture, and most importantly why this all matters. So I'll try to explain everything in a simple way as possible, like explaining like in a friend. Okay, so let's get started. And before we jump into the technical stuff, I'll tell the problem that OML is trying to solve. Okay, when you look at figure 2 in my paper, which is the OML threat model diagram, like this tells about what we need something like OML in the first place. So you see the current AI landscape, like we have in this diagram, which shows four major attacks, like cryptographic attacks, context manipulation attacks, economic attacks, and even infrastructure attacks. And each of these has different levels, like high, low, medium, even critical. Now why did I create this type of visualization was because I wanted to show that securing AI systems is just not a simple thing. Like it's a multi-dimensional problem. Okay, you can have the best cryptography in the world, but if your economic model is broken, then the system fails, right? And you can have perfect infrastructure, but if users can manipulate the context, then the company will be trouble. This is where OML comes in. Like it's trying to address all these dimensions simultaneously. So I'll try to explain the core concept, which is the OML triangle. When you look at the figure 1 in the paper, that this triangle represents three properties that traditionally seemed impossible to achieve together, like openness, monetizability, and loyalty. Where openness means like anyone can send and use the model. When it comes to monetizability, like creators can earn revenue from their work, and loyalty, where the model maintains alignment with the creator values. So when I searched or in the previous companies or the previous projects that I've been in the AI field, like you could only pick two, like wanted to open with loyal, then you can't monetize it effectively. Like that's your typical open source project. It will become an open source project. Suppose if I want a monetizable and loyal project, then you have to close it. Like right now GPT-4 is there, GPT-5 right now latest, and even Claude 4.5, Claude Opus 4.1. There are multiple models like DeepSeek 3.1 and all. But here's what makes OML interesting is they claims that you can have all three. Like how? That is the main part, right? Do something called AI native cryptography with blockchain integration. So now I was thinking like we heard a lot about blockchain promises before also, and I dug deeper into the mathematics and the actual implementation. See, I'm not a mathematical professor right now, but I'm a basic researcher who knows and tries to understand and gain to as much as knowledge, and I'll try to explain to you in my own way. Okay. So here I used mathematical formation. These are all written by some legends, okay, and some professors. These mathematics are not written by me. I have taken the sources from their papers, okay. You can check out the references in the last part of the paper. So when it comes to mathematics, in the information, when it comes to like information theory, let me show the mathematical foundation of why fingerprinting can actually work. So when you look at equation 1, like this is the measuring of the entropy of the fingerprint space. Like now I was thinking like why it was important. Like I was thinking in this way, like imagine you have a model with embedded fingerprints. The entropy tells us how unpredictable these fingerprints are, and the higher entropy means more security because an adversary can't guess them easily, right? I chose to include this formula from Shannon's information theory, who is a great professor, and this isn't something new. Okay, it comes from Shannon's old 1948 something paper on information theory, and I took out. I tried to extract more information from them also. And when you look at equation 2, like it's saying that even if a adversary have access to these model parameters theta, like remember the model is open, so they should still face higher entropy when trying to find the finger spinets. The lambda here is between zero point 0.8 and 1.0, meaning even with full model access, at least 80% of the uncertainty remains. So this is the security threshold. Like I was derived from this pack learning framework, which was established in some 1984. So there was a crucial one, like in the equation 4, where you see, which is the sample complexity bound, which I read about this. Okay, so it's telling how many queries, that means K, an adversary needs to make an identify fingerprints with accuracy and confidence. Okay, so where did this come from? Like I took the formula from Vampnik Sharonik's theory. Okay, from Vampnik and Sharonik, who worked in the theory of learning. So here's what this means in practically. Suppose if your VC dimension, which is D, is larger, like complex hypothesis, and if you want like higher accuracy, and with high confidence, and with the number of queries needed grows very large, this creates a computational barrier for attackers. And let me give some actual numbers like 0.01 and 0. With 99% accuracy and 99% confidence, which is equal to D is equal to 1000 like reasonable for neural networks. So you will be needing the K. Uh, so you will be needing the K, which is an adversary, which should be greater than almost equal to. You will be needing an K, which is an adversary, almost like 46 million queries, which was like huge barrier. And this is why the fingerprinting approach has some theoretical teeth. So when I want to talk about economic side, in the next part, this the first mathematics is done. In the second thing, it was about token economics, and I included some mathematics here also. Like this is where most of the blockchain projects fail. Okay, so I paid special attention to these mathematical models here. So when you look at this equation, which was token velocity equation, so it was taken from Fisher equation of exchange, which was in the economics field, especially from some 1911 work on quantity theory of money. So why does this velocity matter? Suppose if the tokens are moving fast, it means that people aren't holding them, like they are just using them as transaction medium and immediately converting out. This depresses the token value, right? Suppose if velocity is too slow, then it means tokens are being hoarded, which will make the system illiquid. So when you look at the another equation, which is from the Mad Cafe's law of to the OML ecosystem, like Mad Cafe's origin law, and it says that network value growth is the square of the users. So this means that empirical, like from the empirical studies of Biscoe, Wodolsky. Sorry for the wrong spelling, because my this is my first time speaking English. Maybe their words are little bit different, but I'm trying to tell. So here I use this range because it's more realistic than the classic Metcalfe's law. So the network effects in the AI ecosystem aren't as strong as the pure communication networks. So in the next, where I took equilibrium condition equation, which is crucial, right? So it tells about the stable price point where mining and burning balances are. So I was looking at the successful stable coin mechanisms and adapting them for utility tokens. Like the idea is that transaction burning creates deflammatory pressure while minting creating inflammatory pressure. At equilibrium, these balances. Okay, right. So for OML to work economically, so they need to tune, burn, mint such that the stables remain in the range, so that high enough that creators are incentivized and low enough that users also can afford to use in the system. So it should be not like a trial, right? Many projects fail because they get these parameters wrong. It should also manage in the both way, right? For even the creators with the incentivized system, and even with the users who can afford the token to use the sentient ecosystem. Okay, so when I wanted to talk about the security, so I added some more mathematics here. Like this is most important part of the understanding whether OML actually works or not. So in this equation, we can say that like if you have fingerprints and each responses come from a space of size, then the probability that unrelated model activity produces current response, which is exponentially small. Suppose if we take some 50,000 tokens and under 100 fingerprints, this probably is about 10 to the power of some 470, which is that's essentially 10 to the power of minus 470, like which is essentially 0. So where did I get this? This is the basic combination probability. So if you have r possible r not r r possible responses and need to match k specific ones, then your chance will be 1 by r to the power of k. So this comes from elementary probability theory. So in this equation, the models which costs removing fingerprints, like it has some two types, the computational cost and even with the quality degradation cost. So I was formulating this based on some theory principles. The main case here was for fingerprinting to provide economic security, and the cost of removal must exceed the cost of legitimate payment, which is the correct and the economic rational constant. So if this doesn't hold, then rational advisors will remove fingerprints rather than they pay. So if it does hold, then paying is cheaper than removing. The security of the entire ecosystem hinges on this inequality. It will not be unequal. It fucks up. So when we talk about the some real data, so I compiled several tables to understand how OML compares to the alternatives. So when I made a table one, which is OML security threat matrix. So here I showed like different attack vectors, security descriptions, like metadations. It all the data is gathered from the OML technical papers which are on RXIV, and in the parallel bench papers on memory ingestion attacks, and some analysis of my analysis of blockchain security literature. So the key side from this table was like prompt ingestion and memory ingestions are rated as high and critical severity. So this is based on the research showing that AI agents are significantly more vulnerable to memory injections. Like 75% success rate is there for attacks rather than traditional prompt injections. So why is this in my paper? Because it shows that even with perfect cryptography and economics, if you don't handle this attack vectors or the system fails, then almost everything will be failed, the system will be failed, and everything will get fucked up, right? And the OML tail needs to address this seriously. And in the table 2, which is the sentient ecosystem matrix, where it shows the real adaptation data. So I took it almost till September. Okay, so there are more than some 1.8 million waitlist signups according to sentient. There are some 40 deployed agents, 10 models are available, and they also have huge funding, like 80 million funding at $1.2 billion valuation. So this data is officially from the Sentient Foundation's announcements and even in their documentation. and they have some media coverage also. It's like it came in every media also. So 1.8 million sign-ups sounds impressive. Like, but we also need to be careful, right? Waitlist sign-ups are weak signals. Like conversion to active users is what matters. Waitlist, everyone can join to the waitlist, but the main thing is how many active users will be there till to end of the product or to the end of the world. The paper, this paper, like the paper that I wrote, explained. Notice that these limitations because I couldn't find the publicly disclosed retention data, and even like the 1.2 billion dollar valuation is interesting only, which is an unicorn status before product launch, and it also indicates some strong investor confidence, and it also creates some pressure while delivering the results. And even they are already focusing on Adobe and even Roma. I'll try to create some more technical papers on them, and I'll try to explain how Roma works, how Adobe works, and all. Okay, their sentient chat is there. Okay, this is one of the most important table also. So when we look at the comparative analysis table, like it compares OML against other 6 approaches across openness, monetizations, and even loyalty. So I scored each approaches based on like closed APIs, pure open source, even bit sensor, OML. So in closed APIs, GPT-5, Cloud Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.1, DeepSeek 2.5 Pro, like every from most of the AI that you are using right now here comes here in the closed APIs only. Like don't have no openness, they don't have any monetization, and they provide controlled loyalty. Okay, when it comes to pure open source like Llama, they have full openness, but there is no monetization like community norms for the loyalty. In BitSensor, there is no openness, but they are all based on models which are hosted. They have token rewards and they have some loyalty. But when it comes to OML, they have full openness, they have fingerprint token monetization, crypto based loyalty. That's what Sentient is focusing on. The main key finding was like OML is the only approach to claim all they achieve to these 3 properties. Okay, but the claiming, which is the operative word, so that's why the limitation column notes like unproven at scale. Okay, when it comes to fingerprinting mathematics, like I'll try to deep dive into this. So when you look at this equation, like there are 2 components: fingerprint loss, like that means how well the model learns the fingerprints, and forgetting regularizer, that means like prevents the model from losing its original capabilities. So here you can see that I analyzed the code and found this in tuned in balance to make a fingerprint strong enough to survive modifications and keeping the model's original quality high also. So after this each gradient step, the parameters are pulled back toward the original model, like the lambda. The alpha value between 0.5 and 0.9 difficult, like default at 0.75, determines how strong this pool is. And I found this technique in the OML GitHub repository, which was OML 1.0 fingerprinting. Like it's based on elastic weight consolidations from neuroscience research on preventing some catastrophic forgetting. Like the AI tries to forget what it has done before. At the starting stage of AI, this was one of the main disadvantages too. When I tried to research more about AI, in the early stages, suppose if we write anything, then AI used to forget what it was learning or what it was writing or what it was analyzing before. Like if I write any one word, the before word will it's already will be it used to forgetting. But right now there are more success rate on that. And let's move to the next equation. So here it tells about the binomial distribution. So which tells that if you test fingerprints and if you need these successes to verify the ownerships, like what will be the confidence level? It's just like taking mock data with some 90% fingerprint success rate with some 100 tests and requiring some 85 success, then the probability of the like of a false positive is less than 10 to the power of minus 6, which gives us the strong statistical evidence of ownership. Okay, you want to let me give you to understand all of this mathematics. It took me some more days, and I've been working on this paper more than 2 weeks. It took generally as in the report or as in the researcher, when they try to gain knowledge and they try to write paper, it depends on the writer also, like how they are trying to explain. Suppose if it's normally 10 to 20 to 30 page worth of content, then it will be written within 2 or 3 days. That's not the big issue. But when it tries to explain some 140 pages of content, then it takes more time, like more than a month. But right now, since I'm trying to contribute to the sentient ecosystem, I'm trying to make it as fast as possible. Okay. And I also there are multiple different mathematics. When let's go to the next part, which is the cost and scaling mathematics. So here let's talk about the economic reality of running the OML system equation. On this equation where here breaking like C to the under power of training, like one time cost to train the model, like $50 to 100 million for the frontier models, and C to the underscore inference, which is the pre-query computational cost, and C underscore infra, which is an infrastructure overhead. So here the integral accounts for varying query volumes over time. I got the numbers from like the Calpin's law and the reported cases of the OpenAI and even Anthropic, who does crazy analysis on this and all, and some collect my own calculations based on some GPU pricing as well. So when we look at the different next equation, which is simple but also crucial, like when does cumulative revenue equal cumulative cost? For $15 million dollar training cost, $0.001 per query inference cost, and like $1 million per month infrastructure. Like even if you charge, suppose let's say $0.01 per query, and if you get 1 million queries per day, and your monthly revenue is like 3 lakh dollar, so your monthly costs are like $1 million for infra and $30,000 for inference, which is almost like $1.03 million. So right now we are losing like 7 lakh 30,000 dollar per month. So at this rate, we never break like even. Like this shows why scale matters. Like you need either much higher query volumes, higher prices, lower costs, right? When we look on the investment mathematics, like for investors who put an $85 million at $1.2 billion valuation, they need a positive ROI, like within the reasonable time frame. So let's say 5 years to 10 years. That's what VC considers to justify their investment. This creates presence on the OML to team to achieve the scale quickly. So they need to work faster on this. So now let's look at the blockchain scalability constraints. So in this equation, this calculates maximum transactions per second, which is based on block size in bytes, batch efficiency factor, block times, and even average transaction size. Like for Ethereum, 30 TPS, and for Polygon, it's around 7,000 TPS. For layer 2 rollups, it's around like 2,000 to 4,000 TPS. Like Ethereum's documented blocks gas lane limit, Polygon's actual throughput data, and even Optometrics the roll up performance papers. Like there are some different papers on this. If you want, you can read some more related to that, related to TPS. So in the next equation, it shows how batching the reduces the cost. So at batch size increases, then the per transaction cost of the L1 settlement gets amortized. Suppose let me give you an example. If L1 settlement costs $10 and you batch 1000 transactions, suppose each pays $0.01 for the settlement plus L2 processing cost. Let's say it's around some $0.001, and in total it will be around some 0.011 per transaction. Suppose if you go without batching, then each transaction pays $10 plus $0.001, which comes around $10.001. So this is why layer 2 solutions are essential for OML availability. I think you got the example what I try to understand here. So when we look at the next equation, like which is on the trade-off, like there's a huge trade-off, like larger batches reduces cost but also increases the latency, and smaller batches reduce latency but increases the cost. The optimal batch size depends on the user tolerance for delays, and also they tries to tell that how much they want to save on the fees also. So let's take the economics of attacks. Like this is the advisor like problem, which is one of the big problem. So when you look at this equation, like an advisory wants to minimize the fingerprint success rate. We like let's call it in short term called FSR, while maintaining acceptable clean accuracy, and also within staying within the perturbations budget. So I formulated these optimizations problems like based on some standard machine learning frameworks, like from good fellow, not good fellow, good fellow who has some good works based on this product. The main key question here is like, is this optimization problem really hard? Whether it's really hard to do this. So I came to this equation, which is on the lipstick Lipskids continuity bound. So in this, the constant is large and the small parameter changes causes large FSR changes, making this fine-grained removal difficult. Suppose if L is small, then adversaries can gradually reduce FSR without even triggering the quality degradations. So the value of that L, which is the capital L, as you can see in the equation, it depends on how fingerprints were embedded. Right now, the OML paper doesn't provide empirical L measurements, like which is a gap in the current research. So I avoided little bit on that. Okay, and even the in the next equation, it's I am trying to plug like some realistic numbers, like GPU rental, which is around $2 per hour for V100, and for fine tuning time, let's take for 10 hours to remove 50% of the fingerprints, and cost is like $20, and the quality degradation like 5%. It will be some worst performance. So the value loss will be, if the model was worth $100 to me, then I lose $5 in value. So if we remove the total cost, then it would be around $25, like $20 plus $5. So if legitimate usage costs $10, then removal is $25. Like paying is cheaper, right? But if legitimate usage cost is $30 and removal is $25, then remove is cheaper. Like removing is cheaper. So I hope you understand this example. Okay, so I try to explain in beginner step, but try to understand. Like this shows like why getting the economics right is critical. Like this paper is huge, so I think the video is getting more bigger. But if you don't understand, you can rewatch it again. Okay, let's come to the grid architecture. This diagram shows the value flow in the OML ecosystem. So let me tell some important things about this also. So at the top, let's suppose if we have users who submitted queries, right? They acquire tokens and pay for our services. Not my service, sentient services. The tokens flows through this ecosystem, like to creators, some 50 to 70% of the payment, to infrastructure, some 20 to 30%, to protocol treasury, some 2 to 5%, and to stakers, some 5 to 10%. Like I suppose like this is how it works, and the percentage is used from some platforms like Ethereum validators get some 4.5%, content platforms like YouTube gives 50%, app stores take 15 to 30%. See, I'm not from the sentient team, so I don't know how they are thinking, right? So I took from the on world data, like in the world, how the like creators infrastructure, how it's going on. So I try to take example from there and I try to analyze, and this is just a mock data of mine. Okay, trying to think like this might work like that, but I know whether sentient will focus like this only. They may change, they may bring, or they may do some changes here also. So I synthesize this into some reasonable change ranges for the OML. Here the main key insight from this diagram is like value must flow to all participants for the ecosystem to sustain. Like if any party is under compensated, then they leave the and system, and the company will collapse. Okay. So when it comes to, let's go to the last part in my research, which is the limitations which I identified. The first one, the first limit which was there, like the fingerprinting robustness, which is not is proven against sophisticated advisors. Like the empirical tests are limited until we see real world attempts by well-funded advisors to remove fingerprints. Like we don't know whether if it works at scale. So right now it's still on the product development. So let's see in the future. When it comes to the second limitation that I found was like the token economics assumes to be stable value, like but we know from other projects that token price can be extremely volatile when it comes to crypto. Like this is not an stable token, right? And the paper doesn't adequately address like what happens during a bear market when a token value drops 90%. I can't say that right now. Okay, it depends on the market. And when it comes to like third limitation is the governance model through token voting has some known problems, like plutocracy, low participation, manipulation. Like I documented this in the section 10.3, but right now solutions remain unclear. Let's see how Sentient is trying to work on that. So there are like some more questions on my head also while writing this paper. So analyzing all those questions, and I try to make as simple as that in my paper. Like I didn't try to tell that this is already done, because I can't tell like that, right? While writing a report paper, we need to have some source, like whether it's written or taken the information. Like most of the information I took is from Sentient documentation only. So if Sentient launches their product, launches their revenue generation, then I can analyze and tries to predict some figures. But right now I can't do that. Okay. So when it comes to fourth limitation is in my mind, like user experience complexity, like using blockchain, like integrations of this blockchain, which creates adaptation barriers, right? Like right now, but in future more people are adapting into blockchain. So what my thought is like, we need to focus on users who are in web 2 and trying to extract them from web 2 to web 3. So I hope Sentient does in the recent this in the recent some video, even Sandeep Nailwal, who is the co-founder of Sentient, he told that we are coming for OpenAI. So I think this is one of the biggest competitor for OpenAI also. In the fifth limitation, like the analysis, like the scalability shows that a blockchain throughput could be bottleneck at scale, like at the starting stage, but don't know whether if the chat works perfect, then even the users who don't know about the blockchain will come. But it adds complexity, but at the at the starting stage only, not at the entire stage. So what I want to like uh, emphasize is, I am not saying OML doesn't work. Okay, I am saying these are open questions that need more research and real world testing. Right now I don't have access to the Sentient chat, and also I don't have more access to the Sentience teamwork and all, because I am not working with them. This is my open research based on the documents that I have right now, and also you can also see those documents. So based on that I am managing and creating the report paper. So let me step back and explain why I spent some weeks analyzing this. Like the AI power in these few corporations is a real problem. Like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, maybe Meta, which is basically for frontier models. Like they control who get access at what price. There are so many restrictions. Like there is no fucking transparency into how these models works. There is no democratic accountability. Like pure open source doesn't have this solve this, because it is not sustainable. Like you can't fund 100 million fucking dollars to trying runs through donations, right? Like who the hell gives $100 million to a project who works on donations, like donate to this project like that? So OML represents a serious attempt to find a third way. If it works, then I can say that it could democratize this access to the AI capabilities and enable the sustainable open development. And they'll provide transparency while providing the creator rights, and also create alternatives to corporate control also. That's why this matters, not because Sentient Foundation is perfect, but because the problem they're trying to address is real and urgent. So, like there were so many mathematics diagrams and all. So let me summarize what we covered today. The mathematical foundations, like they show that fingerprinting has theoretical teeth. It's not just an blockchain hype, okay? And the economic models are plausible, but they depend on how many assumptions that needs real world validations. When it comes to security analysis, it reveals both strengths and also reveals about gaps. And the data shows like early transactions and also with the highlights that we don't know yet. And the limitations are significant, with the some honest assessment requires by acknowledging them. So my overall telling is on my work is that OML represents some genuine innovation that is serious. Okay, like they have some good technical work and they have some thoughtful approach to a real world problem. Right now it's on early stage, unprovable at scale, but faces some challenges. But I'm sure that they'll try to fix it, and they'll try to grow as much fast as possible, like how OpenAI did. And the success of OML won't be determined just technical elegance alone. Like it will also depend on whether fingerprinting withstands real attacks, like whether token economics remain stable, whether users find enough value to adapt despite complexity, whether the team can execute through the inevitable challenges. Like I'll try to watch closely and adapt my analysis more data becomes available. The main thing comes under is the token, like how well the token performs, how well the users are trying to use, whether it's just used for transactions, whether the users are using the token. It all depends. Okay, so if you found this analysis valuable, check the full research paper on Zenodo. I'll try to put the link in the description, and look at the OML technical papers which are on the multiple research websites. and you can explore the Sentient Foundation documentation also and try their open deep search implementation, which is good. So I am continue to research decentralized AI systems, and I'll also try to make more videos breaking complex technical topics about Sentient. So if you have any questions or want me to dive deeper into these specific aspects, leave a comment below. And if you appreciate this kind of detailed technical analysis, consider subscribing and put a like. It really helps me justify like spending weeks on this deep dives. Like, why am I doing this? So I thought, if I am contributing to the sentient when it comes to education, there were 0% members who were trying to explain about the technical things. You can't explain a technical problem in a tweet, okay? Like I'll just say that they'll try to explain the theoretical part, but who the fuck explain the technical part, the mathematical part, the diagram part? No one. So that's why I'm focusing on this. So if you like this video, please leave a like and tries to tag sentient team. I think they like this video. So it's almost like an half an hour video explaining about the OML. So thank you guys for watching this video, and let's go.